Hey, I'm Ryan from WSOU 89.5, and I am joined right now by the one and only Ryan Kirby from Fit for a King. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you guys have a new album coming out October 28th, much awaited. The Hell We Create. Could we talk about what the writing process was for that?
This record is probably the most we've written in the studio. I don't know if we were any of the materials from before the studio, and a big reason for that was we didn't really write much during the pandemic. We all live far apart. I mean, we were just talking. Tuck lives in Jersey City. Dan, our other guitarist, he lives in California. So everybody's all over the place. And then on top of that, everybody was just really, it sounds weird, like really anxious and depressed. And anxiety turns out to not be a very good like mindset to be in when writing. Because you can write about depression and sadness all day, but anxiety is like, am I really about to write about a bunch of things that I don't even know are true, are going to happen? And that is what kind of makes that weird. So what I was trying to think what the process for this was. We wrote it basically all in the studio, and I think that was because we had just finished a tour with August Burns Red, and we were finally kind of on the other side of, not necessarily that the pandemic was over, but stuff was reopened and touring was back. So we were able to write from like a point of view where we were reflecting on the events of the past 2 years instead of like living in them, which I think led to the record being a lot more, in depth and more coherent. Because sometimes when you're living through the bad times, it's hard to like take a step back because you're currently in it. So it was nice taking a step back. And a big change with how we did the instruments on this record was we were like always asking ourselves, does this song sound sad? Does this song sound angry? Before lyrics are ever put on it. So we're putting a big emphasis on trying to like make the song sound like the mood that the lyrics are before lyrics are even introduced.
Yeah, exactly. And the pandemic happened. You had just released your your other album in 2020, The Path.
Mhm.
How was it not being able to tour that album when you first released it?
That was a huge bummer because the path, like a big reason we put out the path, or the reason we wrote the path the way we did, is everything was about the live show. We're like, we want to do giant production and we can't wait to play this on huge stages. And one day we want to have pyro, and like everything was about the live show. And then we didn't really ever get to tour on the
Yeah.
record. So it's a bummer because that's probably the most we focused on live for any of our albums. Um, So while some parts for some people didn't translate, listening when you see it live, I've literally heard people say I didn't even like that song, but then I saw it live and I was like, oh, I get it. It's like, yeah, that was the point of that record, but here we are. Unfortunately, we're getting to play some shows, but like right now we're supporting I Prevail, and we only get to play 7, 8 songs. And with every album that comes out, it gets harder and harder to pick a set list because, and even with like a headliner, because people are like, well, I'm the headliner, do it all. And I'm like, I'm a man. I can only scream so many songs in a row. So it's like, play 30 songs. And it's like, that'd be great if I didn't like lose my voice for the rest of my life after that. Because I got to go do it in all the other cities.
Exactly. And you guys are on a pretty lengthy tour right now.
Yeah, 43 shows.
Yeah, at least you get a little break in between right now.
Yeah, this is nice. Being home right now is great.
And going off what you just said with the path and not being able to like pick songs for certain shows because you're supporting an act rather than headlining. I remember you guys were supporting August Burns Red, and The
Mhm.
Path is one of the band or one of the albums that I first heard you on, and so I was like expecting a ton of the Path songs, and then I was like pleasantly surprised that you played a lot of your other songs. So.
Yeah, it's like, it sucks the timing of the pandemic. Not that this is such a minute thing compared to everything else, but we only got to tour Dark Skies for 1 year. and we only got to tour the path for 1 year. It literally cut the touring in half for both records, and it's a huge bummer trying to balance like which ones to play, because neither record really got its proper amount of touring. And now we have another one coming out, and it'll be even more interesting to like combine all the records on future tours. But luckily in 2023 we're headlining a bunch, so
That's awesome.
we'll get creative with the set lists on each headliner and try to cover some ground.
Good to hear. And speaking of that new record, you guys have 4 singles out at the moment. Reaper came out in June, and The Other Side, Falling Through the Sky, and Times Like This, which came out yesterday. Reaper came out with really heavy off the bat, and I was reading through some YouTube comments for your music video, and people seem to be really pleasantly surprised. I don't know. People say that the path was softer, but
I mean, I always thought that was weird because so as a band, we've always sang. So that wasn't weird that there was singing.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, Vendetta is like as heavy as any song. Like when people are like, dang, Reaper, this is so much heavier than the path. And I'm like, I mean, it's heavy. I don't know if it's heavier than Vendetta. I feel like they're both equally heavy. It was weird. And even God of Fire is really heavy, and Stockholm is a heavy song.
Yep.
And it was just weird because I was like, well, half of the path didn't even have singing.
Exactly.
So
I don't know. I don't know. I just found out recently that people didn't like the path as much, or some people didn't. A lot of people did, but
here's what's crazy though. If you look at our Spotify, which obviously people can't like dive too far in, but if you look, I looked the last 30 days, the path is out streaming Dark Skies right now. So
yeah.
It's weird because we were seeing the loud vocal minority in the comments too, and we're like, dang, they really don't like the path, but it just keeps streaming. And then we noticed like it's doing really good in Europe. And we haven't been to Europe since the pandemic, and we returned there this summer or this winter. And I'm like, well, we're gonna put a lot of path in the set and see what happens, because like the numbers are really good in Europe for the path. So I was like, maybe that's where it like really took off, was like it's more of that, because it's definitely a more metal record.
Yeah.
So I think people that enjoy metal enjoy the path a lot. Maybe a lot of our previous fans liked more of the like the breakdown and less of the like guitar solo.
I don't know.
Yeah. I like both.
I like both too. I think it's really cool. But yeah, and the recent singles you came out with, they have both breakdowns, really heavy songs, and then they also have songs that are singing. One specifically is Falling Through the Sky. That one, I don't know, I think your singing on that one really comes out. And so is that something you decided to do specifically, or?
I mean, it was I wrote that chorus, and the chorus came first. And I guess what I've always been trying to do is, because I'm relatively new to singing, I started singing when I was 26 and I'm 31 now. So like 5 years of experience, which isn't that crazy amount compared to other people in our genre that have done it since school. I'd say Falling Through the Sky, I genuinely like rock music that's like that. Like I love some of the stuff Wage War has been putting out.
Yeah.
I grew up listening to like Breaking Benjamin, like love the Motionless stuff coming out. And so I genuinely like active rock type stuff. And I wanted to do a song like that, kind of like in a Fit for a King style. Not as much as people want to say it's because selling out. It's like, no, I like that music. I've always wanted to do a song like that, and I've always been insecure in my singing because I'm relatively new. So I was always scared to like do a song that's like 90% singing. Especially that song in the verses is like just vocals and some production for the most part, and like a little bit of drum. It's like very in the front, which is scary live. But so I'd say that song is something I've wanted to do as a challenge for myself, to like push myself into being a better singer, because I don't want to just be known as like the guy who does long screams or whatever. I want to be known as just a great vocalist all around. And so I think that song was me challenging myself to like be a singer for a song.
Well, I think you did a really good job on that, and
Thank you.
I'm excited to see how the band evolves in the future as well as you add that to your repertoire. Is it? You said you're not so confident in it. What is that like on stage? Does it make you nervous, or are you comfortable enough with what your abilities are?
I'm confident enough, because I say confident enough because I think if you have no confidence, singing's impossible.
Mhm.
Like, because there's certain notes. That's the difference between singing and screaming. You can kind of passively scream, like quieter, like whatever. But with singing, there's certain notes you have to like go for it, or else you're gonna voice crack or like miss the note really bad. And missing a scream is a lot more forgiving than missing a note in a chorus. So I was like, it's like I'm falling to the sky. And people would be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also you said that this is one of your most emotional records, and I don't, you've it seems like you've gone through a lot during the pandemic, especially. How is that translated to the lyrics? Like, is it,
My band pushed me really hard to be really open on this record, and not that I haven't been in the past, but I've definitely like been I've been hesitant to go all the way in. And I think part of that hesitation is I'm like I have anxiety problems, and I don't mind like constructive criticism on the band, and when people say this sucks or whatever. Every band, if you have haters, you're usually doing pretty well.
mhm.
um but I always was worried about, well, what if I write like the most personal song ever and people are like, lyrics suck, I hate this. And then it's like more bothering me that I didn't do that subject matter justice, or that I worded it poorly. And the band is like, you don't even know that that's going to happen. Why don't you just
Yeah.
open up, do your best? And fortunately, nobody has said that from opening up more about stuff. So it's kind of nice to see people being receptive. And it kind of goes down to like telling myself in my head, people are going to think it's goofy if I do this or what. And it's all just like feeding into the anxiety thing and overthinking.
Well, I think the feedback so far as what I could see is everyone seems to like it, and I think that comes down to like we're all human, so
Yeah.
and the songs you can relate to, which is definitely also some of them are just really killer. So people
Yeah.
like
Some
that
are
too.
just trying to be heavy. So,
Yeah, which like Reaper, that one's awesome.
yeah.
But I really like the slower ones. Times Like This came out yesterday, at the time of this interview, featuring Jonathan Vigil from Ghost Inside. Is that how you say his last name?
It is.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
But how did that collaboration come about?
Tuck is friends with Chris from their band, and kind of linked us up because we've been a fan of the Ghost Inside. I've loved Jonathan's vocals since, I don't want to date him too bad, but like since 8th grade. Don't want to make him feel like too old with that. But since Ghost Inside was on Media Scare Records, and I was like, I think his voice would sound so cool on this part. And that was kind of how he recorded it where he's at. So I unfortunately, didn't get to work with him in person on it, but we've exchanged some emails, stuff like that. Super cool guy. Like, hopefully we get to tour with him soon so he can do the part live.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does this mean that there's gonna be a Ghost Inside Fit for a King tour eventually? That would be
I
cool.
hope so.
Yeah. And speaking of tours, you guys are on tour with I Prevail and Pierce the Veil. How has the first leg of the tour been going?
It's been insane. Like, those bands are legendary. I've told people like I Prevail might be the most important band in metalcore because they're constantly pushing the ceiling.
Mhm.
There's so few metalcore bands that can go and draw 5,000 people at any given night. And then Pierce the Veil, I mean, it's like just two gigantic bands. Pierce the Veil, no band has or will ever sound like them. There's a reason their band like sticks around since I was in high school. And it's so like it's unreal to me to like just be backstage and they're just chilling and like, what's up, man? How you doing? And it's like I would have pre-sold tickets to play like an all-day festival as a local band, and Pierce the Veil plays at like 10 and we play at 1 or something like that. I would have done that. And it's like, but now I get to do 43 dates and I get paid to be here.
That's
That's
awesome.
crazy.
Yeah. It's
So
like
it's
a,
I try not to fanboy.
well, I'm sure you're getting comfortable and
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a great spot to be in, to be able to open for them. I definitely get a lot of new fans getting to see your music for the first time, and a lot of old ones that came out to see as well. You guys are touring Europe for the first time in a while.
Yeah. At that time, it'll be almost 4 years.
That's insane. Are you excited for it? Nervous?
I'm so excited. I mean, a big part of like what inspired the path was our tour in Europe with As I Lay Dying, because seeing As I Lay Dying with all the pyro and the European crowds, especially in Spain, singing the guitar riffs, and like seeing like As I Lay Dying with pyro in front of 5,000 Germans just losing their mind. I was just like, I want to do that so bad. And so the path was kind of like inspired by seeing those gigantic European shows. And then we didn't get to go to Europe because it was canceled. We had a headliner and everything. But we finally get to go back. And while we're not headlining, Amity Affliction's great. Gideon is awesome. So is See You Space Cowboy. And honestly, just really excited to go back. And our hope is to do another headliner, try to do the headliner we were attempting to do again at some point next year. But I'm glad to be going over there with the
Yeah. So you do a lot of American touring, especially the last year and a half, 2 years. But does anything change when you go over to Europe? Or
I'd say Germany just loves metal. Like it's so big out there. There's bands that'll draw 200 people in America that'll go do 1,500 people in Germany. Like they're just a country that loves heavy music, and it's great. And like we played Australia. I think the only place we've left the US for is we played 2 Canadian shows, and then we played Australia with Alpha Wolf. And I don't know, it's just so cool meeting like international fans are so gracious especially after the pandemic, like with everything, keeping shows away from them for so long. And they're just very gracious, and it's so fun to play in front of European fans. And like I said, the singing guitar riffs thing, never seen it in the US. So like hearing a crowd sing a guitar lead is the coolest thing ever.
yeah, I bet that's awesome.
Yeah.
So something I noticed with you guys is that you guys are all Christians. Sometimes that translates over to the music from like a fan's perspective, but does that have anything to do with like the music you're writing?
I wouldn't say it's like, I tell people like we're Christians in a band. There are some songs that have Christianity infused lyrics because that's just who I am as a person. And but I don't sit down and say, all right, what God inspired song am I writing today? I just write about my life, and Jesus is a part of my life. And so sometimes that'll be in the lyrics, but a lot of times it's just talking about real world stuff like depression, mental health, and all that. And a lot of times the way I've coped is with, my relationship with God. So that will be in some of the lyrics, like Oblivion or stuff like that.
Yes. And sorry, Oblivion, is that one off of Slave to Nothing, or is
Dark Skies?
Dark Skies? Okay. But I did want to mention that Slave to Nothing today is 8 years old.
It is, and I'm feeling real dated.
Yeah. Was that's one of your earlier ones?
Yeah, second one with our label.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Sorry. To wrap up, I wanted to ask a couple, cool questions, just to, quick questions. What is your favorite tour food?
Favorite tour food? I really like, honestly, curry a lot. And it's a lot of people think that's weird, but my wife and kids don't like Indian food at all.
Hmm.
So when I leave for tour, so I'd say Thai food in general. I just like Thai food a lot. Same with like Japanese, a lot of Asian cuisine. Um, but I'd say we go to a lot of Thai restaurants because my wife and kids aren't a fan. And so when I leave for tour, everyone in the band loves Thai food. And I'm like, let's get Thai food because I'm not going to eat this for the whole time I'm home.
Awesome. And then, so what are some of your favorite cities to go to on tour, like personal favorites?
I love going to Prague, and it's called Czechia now, not Czech Republic. So they changed their name.
They did? I didn't even know that.
I need to double check, but we had a driver from there, and he's like, yeah, like 9 years ago they renamed it Czechia.
Interesting.
I'm gonna verify that.
Yeah, we could be spreading some.
Yeah, I don't want to. It's the first Google.
Yeah.
Oh, it says Czech Republic, also called Czechia. So I guess you can call them. You can call it both. All right.
Awesome.
Didn't want misinformation on the.
But we checked it. It's all good.
But I'd say Prague is one of my favorite. In the United States, I really like going to. Weirdly, like Portland, Maine was really cool.
I just came back from that one on vacation there.
See, you went on vacation there, so it obviously has to be pretty cool.
Yeah, first time. It was a really cool place, though.
And it's like kind of low key, but a place that I've never toured, but I'm biased. I love Monterey, California, but there's not really venues there or anything, but it's just where I was born and we visit there. And I think it's gorgeous. It's like just a beach city with 50,000 people. I think that's the vibe, is like beautiful scenery and not tons of people.
Yep, you get that both in Maine and Monterey, California.
Yeah.
That's great. You are a affiliated Twitch streamer?
Yes.
Yes, and I just want to ask, like, what are some of your favorite video games?
So lately I've kind of like put video games on the back burner because I got into Magic.
Ooh.
But now I've been playing MTG Arena on my computer, but I'm going to be playing the new Call of Duty when it comes out. I played League of Legends for like 12 years, and I think it's finally wore me down. I think it's finally won. I can't do it anymore. And I'm playing Resident Evil Village right now. I like horror games. There's just not a lot of good ones that come out that often. But when one does, I play it. I play Elden Ring. Still haven't beat it. That's another one that's finally wearing me down because I keep losing all my runes. And I know people are just like, go pick them up. I'm like, it's not that simple. I die. No, I ordered a Steam Deck, so can start grinding on tour with Elden Ring. And I'd say I love sports games. MLB The Show and NBA 2K are probably my favorite sports games.
Great. And then last question. Besides music, what does your band do together, like, just for fun?
So like, what does our band do for fun?
Yeah, so like if you're on tour, like what's something you do for fun? Like
me and Tuck, definitely Magic. That's big. And Eric from I Prevail, Dylan also plays it. There's like a group of 9 or 10 people on that tour right now that love Magic. So we've been getting a bunch of cards. I'm actually at my desk, and I got a deck I'm working on right now for the second half. Just waiting for some more of them in the mail. What else? I'll play, if I have games, I'll play games in my spare time. Like Europe, I'm probably going to play the new Pokemon game. Just cool. It's a good offline game.
Yep.
To play. And we have a long flight there, like 7-8 hours. So it'll be good for that. Outside of that, we love getting coffee. Yeah, sitting.
That's all.
I know, Magic, video games, coffee, and sitting. Those are we like sports too, like Can Jam or even just throwing a football and all that.
Good stuff. I lied. Last question is, why do you think people should care about Fit for a King?
I think they should care because our band cares about everyone that supports our band. Every record we go into the studio and it's not just what we want. We're like, what would make our fans proud? And we heavily use our constructive criticism from our fans to shape each record. And while it might not be able to appeal to everyone, every single song, we're never going to be one of those bands that lets our fans down with a release, because there's so many fans that have given their time, their money, they've tattooed their logo, all that. And I would never want somebody to look at their Fit for a King tattoo and be like, I need to get that covered.
Well, I'm glad that you care, and I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day to talk with me and WSOU. The Hell We Create, your new album comes out October 28th. The singles are out now. You could go pick it up at your local record store, LP, CD, or Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music. And thank you.
No, thank you.